Welcome, welcome! Today, we embark on a thrilling exploration of the evidence for evolution. Remember, in this unit, we are discussing the theory of evolution. Now, in science, the term theory is a bit different than the colloquial term. Usually when you hear people say they have a theory, what they really mean is that they have an idea or a guess. Scientific theories, on the other hand, though, are very different. Scientific theories are well-tested and highly reliable scientific explanations of natural phenomena. They unify many repeated observations and data collected from lots and lots of experiments. So, in summation, a lot of supporting evidence is required for something to be dubbed a theory in science. This is because in science, we can never prove something to be true. We can only support hypotheses until we have enough support that we can call them well-founded theories. Make sense? So, for something to be a scientific theory, it needs to have a lot of evidence. Let's spend the rest of this discussion then going over some of the evidence for the theory of evolution. By the end of this discussion, you should be equipped with a deep understanding of how direct observations, fossil records, homology and vestigial structures, and DNA evidence can provide support to substantiate the theory of evolution. Let the journey begin. Let's start by examining direct observations of evolution. In recent times, scientists have witnessed remarkable instances of evolutionary change occurring within short periods, things that we can see in front of us during our own lifetimes several times over. And these observations provide powerful evidence for the process of natural selection in action. Direct observations of evolution include cases such as antibiotic resistance in bacteria, pesticide resistance in insects, and changes in beak size in finches due to environmental factors. These instances clearly demonstrate the impact of natural selection on the survival and reproductive success of individuals with certain traits. Let's actually quickly explore some of these examples of direct observations of evolution. While we go through these together, I want you to pause periodically throughout the video and think about key points in each example that provides supporting evidence for evolution by natural selection. Let's start with antibiotic resistance in bacteria, okay? Over time, bacteria populations have developed resistance to antibiotics, such as penicillin. Initially, most bacteria in the population are susceptible to the antibiotic, right? Due to genetic variation resulting from mutations, though, some bacteria may possess traits that make them resistant to the antibiotic. When antibiotics are used to treat infections, the susceptible bacteria are killed, while the resistant ones, with those mutations, the resistant ones survive and reproduce. The offspring of the resistant bacteria inherit the resistance trait, leading to an increase in the proportion of resistant bacteria within the population. Make sense? Natural selection favors the survival and reproduction of individuals with antibiotic resistance, leading to the evolution of antibiotic-resistant bacterial populations. Make sense? Let's move on to our example with pesticide resistance in insects. Insect populations exposed to pesticides have developed resistance over time. Initially, the majority of insects in a population are susceptible to pesticides. And this makes sense. This is why pesticides were developed. Due to genetic variation, though, some individuals may possess traits that make them resistant to the pesticide, very similar to our bacteria example. When the pesticide is applied, susceptible insects are all killed, while the resistant insects survive and pass on their resistant genes to the next generation. Subsequent generations of insects therefore have a higher proportion of individuals with pesticide resistance. Natural selection acts on the population, favoring the survival and reproduction of insects with pesticide resistance, leading to the evolution of pesticide-resistant insect populations. And these are both examples that we see in real life. And now for our final example, this is a classic one, it's Darwin's finches. All right? So the finches on the Galapagos Islands that were observed by Charles Darwin displayed variations in beak size and shape. Each of these beak sizes and shapes correlated with the bird's specific diets. Different species of finches had varying beak sizes and shapes, and the beak morphology of each species was well adapted for the specific food sources available on their respective islands. In times of drought or food scarcity, certain food sources became very scarce, leading to competition among the finches. Finches with beaks that allowed them to more effectively eat the available food sources had higher survival rates, and therefore more of them reproduced, especially compared to the finches with beaks that were not so well suited for the available food sources. Over time, natural selection favored the individuals with beak adaptations that were most beneficial for obtaining food, leading to the diversification of beak sizes and shapes in different finch species. This was a change in the allele frequency of certain beak characteristics in the finch population that the scientists are able to observe in real time, just in a few seasons. Evolution directly observed in nature. These three examples are just three of many that demonstrate how direct observations provide evidence for natural selection as a driving force of evolutionary change. They highlight the role of genetic variation, differential survival and reproduction, and the inheritance of advantageous traits in shaping populations over time. Now let's turn our attention to fossil evidence. Fossils provide a unique window into the past, revealing the existence of extinct species and the transitions between different forms of life. Can any of you maybe think of an interesting fossil discovery or explain how fossils provide evidence for evolution? Fossils demonstrate the existence of ancient species that exhibit intermediate characteristics, providing a snapshot of transitional forms. For example, the fossil record shows the progression from early land-dwelling mammals to the diverse array of marine mammals we see today. These fossil records align with the predictions made by evolutionary theory and provide compelling evidence for the gradual change of a species over time. An example of a fossil that demonstrates an intermediate characteristic and serves as a transitional form is Tiktaalik rossier. Tiktaalik is an extinct species of fish-like tetrapod, tetra meaning four, pod referring to feet, that lived approximately 375 million years ago. Its fossil was discovered in 2004 in Arctic Canada, and Tiktaalik exhibits a combination of fish-like and tetrapod-like features, making it a remarkable transitional fossil, transitioning between those tetrapod creatures and those that are more aquatic. So some key characteristics of Tiktaalik. Number one is it has limb-like fins, so fins that are like limbs. Tiktaalik possesses fin-like appendages with skeletal structures that are similar to those found in tetrapods. These limb-like fins had bones, joints, and functional wrists, suggesting a capability for weight-bearing and movement in shallow water. The second key characteristic is gills and lungs. Tiktaalik, based off of fossil evidence, looks like Tiktaalik actually had gills, indicating its aquatic nature. However, it also had a flat skull and an elongated ribcage, suggesting that it probably also had lungs, or at least a lung-like structure in that ribcage, which enables it to breathe air in oxygen-depleted water or during brief excursions if it goes on land. The third point is that it has a neck and mobile head. Unlike most fish, Tiktaalik had a neck, allowing it to move its head separately from its body. This adaptation would have facilitated better vision and the ability to catch prey in shallow water or on land. And then the fourth key characteristic is it having fish-like scales and tetrapod-like bone structure. Tiktaalik had overlapping fish-like scales on its body, according to fossil evidence, but it also possessed a bone structure that looks a lot like tetrapods. Its fins contained robust bones similar to the humerus, radius, and ulna found in tetrapod limbs. So overall, the discovery of Tiktaalik provides crucial evidence of the transition from aquatic fish-like organisms to tetrapods that eventually colonized the land. The combination of fish-like and tetrapod-like characteristics in Tiktaalik helps bridge the gap between these two groups, offering insights into the evolution of limbs, mobile necks, and the adaptation to terrestrial environments. Tiktaalik's limb-like fins with bone structures resembling tetrapod limbs demonstrates a functional intermediate stage in the evolution of limbs from fins. These features suggest that Tiktaalik may have used its limb-like fins to support its weight and navigate shallow waters, potentially using its front limbs to prop itself up in like a push-up motion. The presence of a neck in Tiktaalik indicates an adaptation for more independent head movement, potentially assisting in capturing prey or exploring the environment. These features become increasingly important as organisms transition from a fully aquatic lifestyle to one that involves interacting with the land or terrestrial environments. So overall, Tiktaalik is just a really cool fossil find because it serves as a compelling example of a transitional fossil that provides a snapshot of an organism with characteristics intermediate between fish and tetrapods. Its discovery and analysis provide valuable evidence for the gradual evolution and diversification of life forms on Earth. Let's dive into homology and vestigial structures now, which can further strengthen the evidence or support we have for the theory of evolution, starting with homology. Homology refers to the presence of similar structures or traits that are found in different species, indicating a common ancestry. Can you maybe think of any examples off the top of your head of homologous structures? Homologous structures, such as the pentadactyl limb, penta meaning 5, so a 5-digit limb, that we find in mammals, reptiles, and birds, suggest that these species likely share a common ancestor. These structures have been modified over time to suit the specific needs of each species. This supports the theory of evolution, suggesting that these species evolved from a common ancestor and have inherited modified versions of the same structure. If we examine the forelimbs of different vertebrates, we can observe several key similarities in their underlying bone structure despite their diverse function. The humerus, radius, ulna, and various wrist and finger bones are all present in these forelimbs, although they may be modified for specialized in different ways to suit each organism's unique needs. The presence of homologous structures suggests that these organisms inherited a common ancestral forelimb structure, which has been modified over time to adapt to different environments and functional requirements. While humans use their forelimbs for grasping and manipulation, cats employ them for running and climbing, bats for flying, whales for swimming, and birds for flying and perching. Despite these functional differences, the fundamental structure remains similar. The theory of evolution explains the existence of these homologous structures by proposing that all these organisms likely share a common ancestor. Through the process of descent with modification, slight variations and adaptations occurred in each lineage, resulting in the diversity of forelimb forms we observe today. By comparing the similarities and differences in these structures, scientists can trace the evolutionary relationships among different species and gain insights into their shared ancestry. Homologous structures provide compelling evidence for the theory of evolution by demonstrating the presence of inherited similarities in different species. They indicate that organisms with a common ancestor have undergone modification and adaptations over time, resulting in the vast diversity of life we see today. The study of homologous structures helps us understand the unity and diversity of life on Earth, supporting the idea that all organisms are connected through an intricate evolutionary history. Now, let's discuss vestigial structures. Vestigial structures are anatomical features that have lost their original function in a species but are still present. They serve basically as remnants of evolutionary history. So can you maybe think of any vestigial structures that you might be familiar with? Yes, so examples of vestigial structures could include the pelvic bone in some snake species, as well as the classic human appendix. These structures have lost their original functions, right? Both in snakes and in humans respectively in these examples, but they provide evidence of our shared evolutionary past. Let's focus in on our example of the human appendix first. The appendix is an intriguing example of a vestigial structure because, well, like all vestigial structures, it supports the theory of evolution by showcasing remnants of ancestral traits. So in many other animals, such as herbivorous mammals, right? Animals that only eat plants, the appendix serves a function, right? It has a role in the digestion of cellulose-rich diets. It has a purpose. However, in humans, the appendix is significantly reduced in size and function, right? As far as we know, it's completely non-functional, but it's still there. The presence of a vestigial structure, like the appendix, suggests that our human ancestors might have had a larger cecum, which played a more prominent role in digesting plant matter, probably indicating that our ancestors ate more plants. Over time, though, as our ancestors' diet and lifestyle changed, the cecum and its associated structures, including the appendix, became less crucial for survival and reproduction. Natural selection then gradually reduced the size and functionality of the appendix over time, generation after generation, rendering it eventually vestigial. The theory of evolution explains the existence of vestigial structures by proposing that they are remnants of once functional traits in ancestral species. As organisms evolve and adapt to new environments or adopt different lifestyles, certain structures or organs that were once advantageous and useful may become unnecessary or even detrimental depending on the situation. These structures may then gradually shrink in size or lose their original function over time, right? Generation by generation, getting less and less functional, more and more smaller, but still persist in some modified form, like our useless appendix. The presence of vestigial structures, like the human appendix, provides evidence for common ancestry and evolutionary change over time. It suggests that humans share a common ancestor with other organisms in which the appendix had a more significant role. By studying vestigial structures, scientists can trace the evolutionary history of organisms and understand the gradual modifications that have occurred over millions and millions of years. Finally, let's explore the captivating world of DNA sequence evolution. Comparing DNA sequences across different species allows us to trace their evolutionary relationships and uncover evidence for common ancestry. Can you maybe think of any examples of DNA sequence comparisons that you know of? Well, DNA sequence comparisons reveal similarities in genetic information between different species. The more closely related the two species are, the more similarities we would expect to find in their DNA sequences, right? Makes sense. And this consistency aligns with the patterns predicted by evolutionary theory and supports the concept of common ancestry. One real-life example that demonstrates how DNA sequence comparisons contribute to the evidence for evolution is the study of genetic relatedness among different species of whales. Really cool. So whales belong to the order Cetacea, which is divided into two main suborders. We have Mystaceti, which are the baleen whales, or the ones that don't have normal teeth. And then we have the Odontoceti, which are the toothed whales. And then within these suborders, various species of whales exhibit a wide range of morphological and behavioral differences. However, by comparing their DNA sequences, scientists have been able to unravel their evolutionary relationships and provide compelling evidence for their common ancestry. By comparing specific regions of the DNA, such as mitochondrial DNA, or specific genes, scientists can construct phylogenetic trees that illustrate the evolutionary relationships among different whale species. And these DNA sequence comparisons provide valuable insights into the branching patterns, divergence times, and evolutionary history of whales. For instance, DNA analysis has revealed that the blue whale, the largest animal on Earth, is actually more closely related to certain species of toothed whales, such as a sperm whale, than to other baleen whales. This unexpected genetic relatedness challenges traditional classifications based solely on morphological characteristics, such as having teeth or not having traditional teeth. DNA sequence comparisons also shed light on the evolutionary history of specific whale populations and the impact of factors like migration, isolation, and adaptation. By comparing the genetic diversity within and between populations, scientists can infer patterns of migration, gene flow, and population differentiation, which contribute to our understanding of whale evolution and conservation. By analyzing DNA sequences, scientists can reconstruct the evolutionary history, genetic relatedness, and diversification of different species, such as our whale species. This highlights the power of DNA analysis to uncover the intricate connections of evolutionary change within the animal kingdom. Well, congratulations! This concludes today's exploration of the compelling evidence for the theory of evolution. We examined direct observations of evolution, fossil records, homology and vestigial structures, and DNA sequence evolution. These pieces of evidence form a comprehensive mosaic that strengthens our understanding of the intricate process of evolution. Keep exploring these concepts, and let's continue unraveling the wonders of biology and the incredible story of life's evolution on Earth.